Good day, students. Welcome to our lesson for today. In this lesson, we are going to talk about basic concepts of computer. Now, let's have a look at what the content will include. We will talk about data and information, whereby we will try to understand the difference between the two, as well as knowledge. We will also define what a computer is, and we will have a look at different parts of the computer. We will also look at the different hardwares of a computer. We will look at the input and the output devices. We will look at software, and lastly, we will have a look at the characteristics of computer. So having said that, let's try to understand the difference between data, information, and knowledge. Quickly, let's pay attention here. So we have data and we have information, which is right here, and then knowledge. So what do you think is the difference between these two? Okay, now when we talk about data, we're mainly referring to raw facts. Okay, something that does not yet make any sense. So we are referring to raw facts. And when we talk about information, we are mainly referring to processed data. Okay, and when we talk about knowledge, we are mainly referring to processed information. So that's in short. The difference between data, information, and knowledge is very simple. Data are raw facts, while information is processed data, and knowledge is processed information. Now let's have a look at the example of what raw facts are. If I give you a paper right now and there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I ask you to write a test, are you going to write the test or you won't do anything? Okay, now that's a very complicated or a very tricky question. Most of the students say they'll just continue with 6, 7, 8, 9, and some of the students will say they will not write anything. Well, in this concern, of course, you will not write anything because you do not understand what exactly is. You do know that they are numbers, but for what? Numbers for what? So that's why we call them raw facts, because they are not making sense yet. But when we talk about information, the moment I give you a paper and I say, write my test now, I'm sure immediately you will know that I'm basically asking you to add all these numbers together for you to give it an answer, to give an answer right there, right? This will be 10, I believe. All right, so this is processed data. This is information, because you do understand it. All right, and knowledge is basically the understanding of things, the knowledge that you gain out of that information. So it's basically just processed information. Something like this, you already know that this was an addition, and obviously the answer was 10. So that is mainly the difference between these three. Now let's go back to our PowerPoint slide and just try to understand more. Now here they say that data are raw facts, just like we have explained, and information is data that has been converted into a more useful or intelligible form. So in other words, this is just processed data. And then knowledge is the arrangement of information and classifying information of the same type or the same topic. In other words, we are mainly just referring to knowledge as processed information. So that's the difference between these three. So it's very much important for you to know the difference between data, information, and knowledge. Okay, so the next slide is we're just going to look at the difference. So data is raw facts, while information is data with context, and then data has no context, while information is processed data. And data, these are just numbers and text that do not have any context, while information, these are value added to data, like something which is summarized, something which is organized, or something which is analyzed. Okay, I bet by now you understand the difference between the two. All right, an example here, data is just numbers, just like we have given you here. Of course, you do not understand what numbers are these, but information is when you arrange this and you know that this is the date of your final exam, when you know that this is the average starting salary of something, when you know that 5100 is a zip code of Bonson, IOWA. All right, so this is information because it's something that has context, while this one here is data because it does not have any context and it does not make any sense at all. So in the computer, this is exactly what happened. We have data that is being processed here by the computer in order for it to give us information and knowledge. Okay, so this is just a structure, okay, of how data is processed into information. Once you enter data into your computer, the computer will process that data and it will give out information, which becomes knowledge. Okay, it explains here that the processing of data produces information and processing of information produces knowledge, just like we have explained. Okay, now let's go to and understand what a computer is. What is a computer? So a computer is mainly, the first thing that you need to know is that a computer is an electronic device. Okay, it can be an electronic device, it can be a machine. All right, so it's all up to you. So mainly a computer is an electronic device that can follow instructions. Okay, that can follow instruction to accept input, process the input, and then produces information. Okay, it's just like an example here. So a computer can be an electronic device that accepts data here and process that data into information. Okay, all right, now this is basically what happened. So we have input. When you input data into the computer, that data is being processed. When we talk about processing, we are referring to searching, sorting, or calculating. And when you output it, it becomes information. It displays on the computer screen, printout, an alarm has been tripped by smoke, anything that mainly outputted right here. And then we also have storage. You know, once data is being processed, it can either be stored here or it can be displayed, which is output. Okay, this is the computer here, and let's look at their parts. We have a system unit here, which is your system box. We have a speaker right there. We have a screen here, which we call it a monitor. We have a speaker, which is right here. We also have a mouse, a keyboard, and a microphone. Now computers are actually made of hardwares and softwares. Okay, so let's try to understand what hardwares are. So in other words, we say that hardwares are tangible because tangible is something that you can touch. Okay, so examples of hardwares, we have CPU, which is the processor, and we also call it the brain of the computer. We have all the input devices like the keyboard, the mouse, and so on. We also have all the output devices and the storage devices. They all fall under what hardware is. Okay, so what you can see currently here on this computer, you can see that everything that is touchable here is a hardware, right? We have a monitor right here, we have a keyboard, we have a joystick, we have RAM. Everything that you can see on this computer, everything that you can possibly touch falls under what a hardware is. Okay, we also continue. We also have our system box here, or a system unit, or the case. So all these hardware components inside the case or the system box all falls under hardware. Okay, just another example here. This is your motherboard. The motherboard is the one that you find in your system box, and you know, you find the CPU, you find memories, you find the hard drive, and you know, all this here that you can see, everything that you can possibly see on this screen, these are all hardwares, because remember, they are tangible, and tangible simply means something that you can touch. Okay, Now let's try to understand input devices. Remember, we say all the input devices are hardwares. Now what is input devices? Input devices mainly translate data form that humans understand to one that the computer can work with. Most common are keyboard and mouse. So input devices, in other words, it's just those devices that you can use in order for you to put data within that computer. Okay, for example, a keyboard, the moment that you are typing using a keyboard, which is a hardware. At the same time, it's an input device. You're putting data within the computer, that falls under input. Same applying to your mouse. Your mouse is also an input. I mean, your mouse is a hardware, and the more you are moving it and clicking here or clicking right there, you are inputting as well. Okay, example of other input devices we have, okay, we spoke about the keyboard, and of course the keyboard is divided. It has all different types of keyboards. We have a QWERTY keyboard like the one that you're currently using, or ATM keyboards and automatic teller machines. Okay, we have a mouse, we have a scanner. A mouse is also an input device. A scanner is also an input device. All the discs, CDs are all input devices. Optical mark recognition, that's an OMR, is also an input device. Microphone and joysticks. A joystick is the one that you use when you're playing games. It's also an input device. All right, we also have point and draw devices, trackballs, touchpad, touchscreen, magnetic stripes, and smart cards, digital cameras. All these devices that can input data within the computer actually falls under input devices, and they are also hardwares at the same time. Okay, so here we have it. We have a trackball, we have a track pointer. So all this, for those that do not know, as a joystick is, here it is. It's a joystick that we have actually just spoke about. You use it to play games sometimes. We also have a trackpad, the one on your laptops, that touch trackpad that acts like a mouse. That's also an input device. Now let's talk about output devices. So output devices is just the opposite of input devices. Input devices put data within the computer. Output devices displays or take out data. Now they say output devices are pieces of equipment that translate the processed information from the CPU into the form that humans can understand. For example, we have a screen, right, which is your monitor. So your monitor is an output device because it displays, okay, information. We also have a printer, which is right here. The moment that you're printing something out of your computer, coming out of the printer, that's also an output. So your printer is an output device. Let's look at the different examples of output devices. We have monitors, we have printers, and these are all different types of printers: dot matrix, inkjet, laser, which you also learn about. We also have sound blasters. These are like speakers, you know, when the sound comes out of the computer and all that. So this also falls under output devices. Okay, so those are all hardwares. Remember, we spoke about hardwares, and hardware, some examples of hardwares, we have input devices and output devices. You realize that all output devices and input devices are all tangible. And then we move to the second one, which is software. Okay, so softwares, these are instructions that tell the computer what to do, and also softwares are divided into different types. For now, we will speak about the application software as well as the system software. So the application software, these are software that helps end users, who end user actually you, to perform general purpose tasks, while system software, they basically enables application software to interact with the computer. So in other words, application softwares, these are softwares that helps you to do something. Like Microsoft Word helps you to type, Microsoft Excel helps you to do this. You know, all those different types of softwares that basically helps you to perform a particular task and so on. Okay, we have an example here. So this is Windows. So this is basically a system software. Reason being that it enables application software to interact with the computer. System software basically define that it controls everything that happens in a computer, It manages computers' internal resources, and this includes an operating system. So the operating system of your computer falls under system software. Device drivers. System software is almost always pre-installed, meaning that most of the time when you buy your computer, it mainly comes with certain system softwares already. While application software is this, we're talking about word processor, example Microsoft Word, spreadsheet, example Microsoft Excel, database manager, example Microsoft Access, graphics, example Photoshop, and all that. Okay. Now lastly, we are going to look at what is the characteristics of a computer. So the characteristics of the computer is mainly just to store a large amount of data for a very long period of time, and secondly to process data and information in high accuracy level, and thirdly is to speed in processing data information, so it's very fast, and lastly is for sharing information over a particular network. So that's the lesson for today. Just try to catch up, and if you have any question for today's lesson, please make sure that you ask the questions in the chat feature which is down below there, and also please make sure that you understand your lesson very well and all that. Having said that, make sure you don't forget to fill in your register. Thank you. Enjoy your day. Bye.